Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Anand and this is the Insights podcast series from Accel. On this show, we offer up straight talk on entrepreneurship, business, and self-improvement through stories and conversations with some of the most brilliant startup founders, business thinkers, and industry leaders around the world. This is our 56th episode, and if you want to learn more about us or check out our show notes, head on to our website, insightspodcast.in, after listening to this. My guest this time is a very well known founder. Sairee Chahal is the founder and CEO of SHEROES, a social networking platform for over 15 million plus women. She's also an Aspen Fellow and serves on the board of Paytm Payments Bank. Having founded three businesses, two of them around women, Sairee has been an entrepreneur for 15 plus years now. In this episode, we talk about her early life and career in international relations as a consultant, her experience starting a consulting firm focused on small and medium businesses, and then moving on to start Fleximoms first and pivoting that to SHEROES and scaling it to what it is today. Sairee also shares some great insights on building successful products around communities. Hope you enjoy this conversation. Sairee, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So before we go into your journey, maybe tell the audience a little bit about SHEROES, the current scale, where it is. Yeah.
Right. So Shiraz is at a teenage phase of its life. You can call it. We're now about 20 million women strong, and it's evolved into an ecosystem. When I started Shiraz, I always had these frames in mind, and I think those frames are there to see. They're not just in my mind anymore; they're out there. So there's a core platform. There is the Shiraz stack, which we're still building, very early days, very early shoots, and then there are our business lines, which includes remote work, working with brands, social commerce, and now we're sort of testing a couple of things so Shiraz is actually like a giant lab. There are always some things that are being tested and some things that are being rolled out, and there's some things that are being so it's there. But I think Shiraz is at a very interesting space because timing matters. And when I started Shiraz, there were 10 million women online in India. Today, there are about 250 to 300 million women who are connected to a smartphone. So I think we are really sort of riding a very, very interesting wave here. And of course, all these women want better lives. They want more from internet. They want a safer, high quality experience of the internet, and they want both income and identity that works for them. So yeah, so that's where
Awesome. Awesome. That's helpful. We're going to come back and spend most of our time there. But always love to learn a little bit about the guest here, in this case, you. Tell us a little bit about your early days, education, career, whatever you want to talk about.
Right. So
Yeah.
look, I grew up in small town India, and I keep saying it over and over again so that the women in small towns get up and pack their bags and get out. So
Which
uh,
town was this?
so I grew up. My school was in a place called Muzaffarnagar. And we used to have what we call riot vacation. At least kids used to call it riot vacation because every year the school would shut down 3 4 times because of communal riot. But obviously we didn't know that's a bad thing to sort of wait for. But and then with very middle class upbringing, uh, you know, uh, grew up on outskirts of the city. Grew up with lots of books. My dad's an engineer. We always had Russian engineers, so grew up on lot of scientific books and lot of literature, uh, and uh, and that kind of I think gave a lot of grounding, but also a lot of let's get out of here. Even when I was 12, 13, I knew that look, one needs to sort of find their own road. Uh, and so by the time I was 17, I was out. I left home when I was 17 and started working when I was 19.
Right.
And and I think that those years are now very precious in hindsight because I think a lot of learning happened there, real life learning and practical learning, and of course just sort of expanding your horizons. So
Got it.
yeah.
So undergrad, you did it in JNU. Maybe what sparked your interest in international relations? I believe that's what you
So
studied. Yeah.
actually, My undergrad's in Russian language, and
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
yes. So Russian language and literature. I, in my head, I was supposed to be an academic. Like, I think that's what I was sort of, that's where I was going. And when you come from a middle class family with a lot of Russian influence, academia or maybe UPSC, those are sort of safe spots for you. If you're not going to IIT. So that's where I was, I think, heading. But two things transpired. One is I started working very early. So by the time I was in second year, I was taking freelance assignments. I was teaching diplomats Russian, English lessons, Russian lessons. I was taking on freelance work, and then it kind of sparked my interest in sort of a lot more things. So I did lot of things that I think a lot of freelance work, writing and PR and research. And one of the lesser known facts, I helped a lot of embassies of ex-Soviet nations set up in Delhi. So Pakistan, Belarus, Kyrgyzstan, Ukraine, a lot of them, were when they were being set up, I used to freelance and I used to help them sort of do this. And IR happened because, again, academia, wanted to sort of, I always had this Russia influence. I still do. I speak the language. So in my head, I was going to be a PhD and teaching in some university in India or overseas. But something else transpired. I stumbled upon what became my first startup. So while I was doing my MPhil, I was also building my first startup. And I think clearly, that was the fork in the road. And obviously, I didn't go down the academia road and took the startup road. So my introduction to building startups was 99 when I was still in college. And so obviously IR happened, but more than IR, we ended up building a company called Newslink, which was world's first newspaper for mariners. And that's where I learned my ropes. That's where I learned, how to put things together. And again, beginner's luck. So I think that's what transpired.
Got it. And you spent some time in Heydrichs and Struggles? Or was that as a consultant or full time?
So actually, Heydrich was a short stint. So Newslink was a stint before Heydrich, and Newslink was a startup I built literally with my bare hands. I was the first person on the team. It wasn't my idea or my money, but I built the company. And that's where I learned everything, building tech and building teams and how to hire people who are older than you and things like that. And Newslink got acquired. We saw what they call an exit now. And I didn't even know there's a term called exit. And then I went and worked with Heydrich briefly for about a year and worked with CII for a year. I worked for both of them because they said you can work on our Russia practice. So Heydrich was reviving their Russia practice. So I jumped on that occasion and got to work with them. And I think in hindsight, learned a lot. Learned how a big company works, learned how slow decision making works, learned to be proper at all times, and learned how to sort of, work with an organization that has 56 offices. So again, fabulous experience, learned a lot, made a lot of friends, got to see scale, from building a startup to seeing an organization that has systems and processes. It was a nice change, but it was also a realization to say, dude, you don't belong here. Like, it is not you. You got to go back to building something all over again. And so Heydrich and CII, short stints, both because of Russia, to building something all over again. And so Heydrich and CII, short stints, both because of Russia.
Yeah, got it. So maybe before we jump into your next entrepreneurial stint, I'm just curious, what got your passion for Russian language, and how did that start? Yeah.
So, I grew up on steel plants. We always had Russian engineers hanging around, and they had their families. So, we along with our newspapers and magazines, we got Russian magazines, Misha and Sputnik, and, and Russians had great science books, physics and metallurgy. My dad's a metallurgist. So I was always fascinated. And I think in those days, India-Russia was a thing, and obviously there's a lot of romance about it,
Got it.
Yeah, so, just childhood fancy, no real logic, honestly.
Yeah, no, but that's great. So I'm always curious what sparks that. So that is good to hear. So after the CII consultant gig, you started SAITA Consulting. Maybe talk us through that journey. How did that happen?
Right. So, SAITA happened because of a couple of reasons. One is, I think by that time I had seen uh, a little bit of entrepreneurial wave in India. I think that was the time, VSS was building 197 and Deep was building Make My Trip and Naukri was sort of happening. And,
Which year was this?
so SAITA was 2006,
Okay.
but for me, it all started in 99, 2000. I don't know if you
Okay.
remember, there was this big event called India Internet World uh,
Hmm.
conference in Delhi, and we all sort of like hung out there. And, again, like total what I call fool's luck. I had no connection to internet or tech or any of that. But because of Newslink, I got thrown into the system. I had to
Hmm.
learn everything. And then, uh, uh, and so I'd started following the space, following these founders. In fact, I met Vijay Shekhar in 2000. That's how long back I've traced 197. So SAITA happened because there were a lot of founders and entrepreneurs and business owners who were trying to scale their companies and typically would invest all their time in either building a product or selling to their customers. And when you scale a company, you need a lot of effort in systems and processes, documentation, marketing, PR, all the things that are non-revenue but really important for scale. So we would come in as kind of a turnkey partner and work with companies for anywhere between 6 months to 10 months, sort of do a build, operate, transfer, and then sort of move on. And small team, and I think by that time I'd sort of become confident. I'd worked for a bit. I'd built a company. I had enough sort of networks. So SAITA was really a place to sort of consolidate everything and to also uh, run my own business. I think that was really the space where it was coming from.
And what was the initial offering?
So the initial offering was helping companies put processes in place that would help them go from, an A to B. So how does a company go from 35 people to 1,500 people? How does a company, put its fundamentals of marketing in place? So we would really take a particular objective and help companies set up. So if I may share at this stage, it's been many years now. Like that was a time when 197 had just raised their first round of funding and they growing like crazy. So we actually sat down and did a bunch of work for them, which some of that is still being used. Then there was DGM India, Anurag Gupta, who passed away last year. We helped DGM India set up in India. So we would sort of come in as a crack team, for a company, take on a particular function or take on a particular objective, deliver it, and then get out. Like we rail research set up in India. So a bunch of these, helping companies find their feet or go from point A to point B, mostly in non-revenue functions, non-tech functions, things that don't typically get entrepreneurial attention, and still needs to be done because it's, the company's growing and needs a lot of work.
Got it. And you went from that to Fleximoms. How did that happen? What was the
Actually,
foundation? Yeah.
I have begun to think that all of this just like all these things just found me.
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't find
You
any.
connected the dots. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
these things just
Yeah.
found me. So
Yeah.
when we run SAITA, my team was we had really smart women working for me, and obviously when I started the company, I didn't think we're going to hire only women or we're going to be a women-heavy team, but it ended up becoming that way. And what we realized was the women who work with us are really smart. We had ex-Bain consultants and McKinsey consultants, and I had a distributed team. This is 2006. I had a remote team, and I had really high quality consultants from all the big fours working on these startup projects, and we were having lots of fun. And I had teams sitting in South Africa and Hong Kong and India, and like it was. But in hindsight, they were all women. And then obviously, over a period of time, we figured that just because we offer flexibility and we are distributed, we're remote, all these really smart people are happy to work with us. And a funny thing started happening. Every day, I would get hundreds of resumes in my inbox, okay, of very high quality women professionals, like top notch, bankers, consultants, Amex, Credit Suisse, like really big companies. And we were a small team, 20 people. How big can a boutique consulting company be, and how many people do we need to hire? And we really didn't need all those people, but they were really smart people. And then obviously when, it's also your stage in life. By this time, I had gotten married. I had my daughter. She literally grew up in my office. So I was obviously more aware of, what's happening here by now. And what really sort of struck me was that companies are just not flexible enough. They're just not open to the needs of these women. So Fleximoms honestly didn't start as a business idea. It just started as an idea. Like one fine day, we were all sitting in office and, talking about this. And we said, look, we got to do something. There are these thousands of resumes sitting in our inbox. We should have these ladies. So we put up this website. We called a developer in Noida, booked the domain, and we said, like, just put these two forms, one for companies, one for women, and we uploaded all those resumes on the platform. And we launched it, and then we did a couple of offline, meetups to say, hey, all these people, if you're looking for something, just log into Fleximoms. And then it just took off. That ugly .NET page just took off. That's how Fleximoms happened. And then I think there was a period where SAITA was running and Fleximoms was happening. And I think that was also a period where I had to think about what do I want, so whether I want to run a nice, stable consulting business that pays your bills, you have enough cash flows, but you'll never be like 10x, right? Or you want to sort of now look into this world of consumer internet. And even at that time, consumer internet hadn't become, what it is today. Or let me just say, Flipkart hadn't happened by then, right? So it was pre-Flipkart era. And but it was very clear to me that there is something there, in terms of how popular Fleximoms became. Fleximoms hasn't existed for 6-7 years now, and still people remember it. I still get emails to say I used to be a Fleximoms member, or I came and attended a meet, or I applied for a job. So it just took off because it was the first, and then we signed up a lot of companies like Tech Mahindra and Tata's and a whole lot of that, and a lot of women signed up. So it became a thing, and then we had to take a call, So SHEROES came out of that whole story.
Got it. So I want to get to SHEROES in a minute, but let's walk through that Fleximom story, right? A little bit more. You started and then you put up this .NET site, and it was to connect moms who wanted a flexible schedule, I'm guessing, and to
Yeah.
jobs, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it would help women either find flexible work or help them get back to work, or just find resources around any of these two,
Okay.
So content around working from home, how to start a home-based business. And obviously a lot of what we do today or what we've done in the past was kind of seeded there. And it had a community vibe. So while the platform was still, we didn't have any developers or anybody, so we had an external agency builder, site. And but the whole thing had a community vibe. We would do offline catch-ups. We would speak to women, and that's something that's sort of stuck with us. That talk to your users, talk to women, talk to your community, and Fleximoms would sort of help women find jobs, find positions, get back to work. We even made some coaching programs. There was a back to work program. There was 101 coaching. We were just playing, actually, and because the real business was the consulting business, which was paying the bills, we were just having fun. We went for a long time until we figured, okay, dude, now, take a call, do something, get serious. It's not just fun and games.
So this was, you had both SAITA and Fleximom running from 2006, 7 for how long? Yeah.
Fleximom started in 2011.
11. Okay, got it. Yeah.
And then,
And
by 13, we knew that was take a call. So 12 was the year of shifting and saying, and 13, I sort of, decided to set up SHEROES. So
got
SHEROES
it.
was 13.
Got it. And you wound on both SAITA and Fleximoms at that time, or what happened? Yeah.
So yes, so Fleximoms was kind of folded into SHEROES because
Okay.
what we really had was a bunch of users, right? And
Yeah.
relationships. And we obviously took down the site. And SAITA, I quit. I had another partner, so she took that over. She didn't want to go into this bad world of consumer internet.
Yeah. And you had already grown Fleximoms to 2 lakh plus women or something. It was a solid community.
Like today when I see people talk about growth hacking, obviously I think in my life things have happened first, and then I figured what this is called. Like Newsling got acquired, and
Yeah.
somebody asked me, "Oh, you had an exit." I didn't know this is what you call an exit. I thought maybe they're showing me the door thing. Like I
Yeah.
don't. And then Fleximoms was acquiring users every day, because I would, in my mailbox, I would get every sign up who came, so I got to see it. Just cute little things you can do when you're a small company.
Yeah.
So, and of course now it's called growth hacking. So it's
Yeah.
kind of fun to see this is what is called growth hacking. But yeah, so Fleximoms grew quite a bit, and we had no money really, right? Like in the sense we didn't sort of make any extra efforts to sort of do this. But what we managed to do was pay for itself, do some coaching, get customers on board. So some really nice companies signed up, like Tata's came on board, Mahindra's came on board, a lot of other companies came. And that really helped because that helped build credibility. And I think Fleximoms also grew because before Fleximoms, if you went online and you searched for work from home, I don't think anybody searched for back to work because it kind of didn't exist back then. But if you said work from home, you would get all those get rich links and those earn $50,000 a month kind of things. I don't know.
Sell snake oil types. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
need lots of that. So
Yeah.
I think the first company maybe Google indexed that sort of showed up real jobs from real companies, and not just jobs but also the conversation to say, hey, I attended this workshop, I went for an offline meetup, this is my story. So people were like people, and they were just not like resumes. And I think
Got it.
to returning moms and moms looking to sort of fit things in their life, this is really important.
Got it. So walk us through that transition. What was that? What were the points that made you think, okay, now I need to change this, and the transition to SHEROES?
So I think two things were triggers for this. One is just the growth of internet, and I think that story continues to play, and it's only now that a lot of that has manifested. But I knew that look, internet's changing our lives, right? And by that time, obviously, Flipkart had happened, and like early shoots of a lot of interesting things were already in place.
This is
And I
2013-14 time frame, right? Yeah. Okay.
13
Yeah.
was when the transition was happening a lot in
Sure.
my. And then look, I was like, look, internet's going to be a big thing in our life, and we're all going to ride it in some way or other. And and the 2+2 was like, look, what can we do for women with this? And while Fleximoms was built for a very small use case, very small segment of users, metro only, educated moms, back to work, highly qualified, very different sort of from where we are today. But the fundamental thesis was that internet's going to grow. Basically mad optimism about internet's going to grow, and so glad it's worked out. That it's growing. But and the second was, look, the gender gap is just not for moms, right? The gender gap is for everyone, right? From that adolescent girl in Western UP in a village to founders, to VCs, to women in leadership, to women in tech, to women who are micro entrepreneurs, to women who are ASHA workers. So that's the universalism of the gender gap. So my entire sort of thought process for a long time has been big gender gap, big internet growth. How can you sort of marry the two? It was that simple. And then of course, I called VSS, and he was, and I like, please have breakfast with me. I have to take some life decisions. Uh, so that conversation was super helpful. I think it was one of those marquee conversations in my own life. He and I was like, look, I need to sort of do this, and I want to build this, women's platform. What should I do? And in his, own style, he's like, look, just leave what what's in the past and build afresh. Why didn't you work out of our office? Because I'd given up SAITA and I was starting afresh. Just bring your laptop tomorrow and you can start tomorrow. So that's how she was started, to say, hey, we're going to sort of now build something, one, for a bigger audience, and two, for different women, you know. And obviously it was still early, still 2014. Geo hadn't happened, WhatsApp hadn't happened. But the thesis was pretty much the same. So from moms to everyone, and the use case was still careers, use case was still aspirations, work aspirations, financial aspirations, whatever I can do in my professional life, largely supported by a community that supports me. And of course, from there, it's kind of now obviously expanded.
Got it.
So I set up a new company, started working out of the Paytm office, 6 months free office, and then of course we were there for a long time. I put in my savings. BSS matched my savings as a first check-in, and that's how she was started.
Awesome. Yeah. And who else? Like, just talk us through that first 6 months, 1 year. What happened?
So just 4 or 5 of us. I got a developer, first developer. I got a couple of other colleagues joined us, who were already, from SAITA days. Just a motley bunch of people trying to sort of get SHEROES off the ground. What we did was, actually, we said, let's sort of put something out there. So the first thing we did was we actually put together the SHEROES Summit. Okay, and the SHEROES Summit actually funded SHEROES for next 1.5 years. So we said, let's sort of put the brand out there, and we were also sort of folding Fleximoms into SHEROES. So we hosted the first SHEROES Summit.
What was it about? So for the audience that doesn't know,
it's a space for women. It's basically putting, this whole idea of online communities into the offline world. So basically, when you're building communities, you have to build trust first. So the thing that triggers communities is trust, and nothing triggers trust like meeting people offline. So SHEROES Summit was a way for us to get everybody in the room and say, hey, Fleximom is going to be SHEROES, and now we're going to sort of we're going to be building this whole jobs and careers platform for women. We're going to build this whole community that will enable your success. So let's go. So we got our first few supporters. We had Religare, we had Intel, with a couple of other companies. So they kind of funded SHEROES, to get started. In fact, we helped Religare build the first virtual agent program in the world. Now insurance sales is all virtual, but at that time we actually built a program for them where women would work from home on a tablet that had preloaded CRM and sell insurance for leads that came to their website. So it was quite a interesting model. So that was launched at the first SHEROES Summit. And then took us 6 months to get the platform up, so we kept going, we kept building. Small team, 5 people. And and then 2014 January we launched SHEROES.
Got it. And the first product, like you were who was designing the product, and you said you had a developer and all that. Wow, talk us through the product journey and what all did you launch with? Yeah,
I think irrespective of who designs the product, I think the founders are the first product managers. Basically it's inevitable, because it's all in your head and you want to translate it. So we still had just one developer. Actually, the first product was built with one developer and 2 freelancers, one UX guy and one backend person. And we hired them later, but at that time we couldn't afford them. So just 4 of us, thought about the product. It was a pretty simple product at that point still, just a common database, helpline, content, resources. You could apply, you could select jobs by how much time you wanted to work, by your skills or by your stage in life. So if you're somebody who's never worked as opposed to somebody who's very experienced, you would get like a very different thing show up for you. But it was still a fairly simple product compared to what we have today, obviously. And so that went by.
What was the alternative at that time, or even now, for people in a
So
similar,
I think
yeah,
the alternate has always been like really,
Naukri? Okay,
yeah.
got it. Okay.
And I think that at that time, Naukri wouldn't allow work from home because work from home historically has been scamming. Right? So respected platforms stayed away from work from home.
Hmm.
And we built our entire thesis on work from home for a long time. And then, of course, we killed that also. But Naukri was the only really real option. Even LinkedIn hadn't happened in a big way in India. And women were not really, even looking at LinkedIn. In fact, there was a time later in our journey when Naukri was number one in terms of number of daily jobs posted. We were number two. You
Hmm.
know, and Cheetos had 20,000 companies working with it by the time we were in year 2 and 3. So, and LinkedIn was distant third at that point still.
Got it. Got it.
And of
So you
course,
are the first product manager, built it together and started scaling. Maybe a side note. So this is completely coming to the present time. I think everyone's working from home now. Does the equation change post COVID? Do you think
uh,
this is a really
the
invigorating,
equation.
hopefully, moment for the
Yeah. So I
flexible?
have
Yeah.
to say, this is a double-edged sword.
Mm.
Obviously, it's done two things. It's made remote work respectable. So I think anybody who works from home is going to be equally respected now. But what it's also done is, I think the other thing, at least I see in my own team, we all love coming to office because we leave home and come. Like, there is a wall. And
Yeah.
especially for women who live in joint families and for women who are sort of managing a lot, office is a nice oasis. It's a safe space to come and be who you are. Uh, but we run remote work business line now, and uh, before COVID, all our time went in basically concept sales. This is remote work. This is how it works. Sales cycles were like 6 to 10 weeks long, and post COVID, it's all collapsed. Like everybody knows what's remote work, so we're just selling the product and we're not doing any concept sales. So that business line. So just fun fact, we did the same amount of business in July that we did in the previous quarter,
Hmm.
and quarter before that. So basically, what we would close in 3 months, we're closing in a month now. It's kind of
Awesome.
because remote work has become so mainstream now.
And
I
people are willing to go flexible also. One is remote and the other is flexible aspect, right? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So what we offer is a very scaled solution. So our solution offers uh, a certified base of remote workers who do a certain kind of work. So we do ops, yes, very KPI driven tasks. No subjectivity, no software, no design, nothing that needs an opinion. But anything that can be metricized, we pick up, and then we give it out to 10,000 women who are on the network, who are qualified, who are certified, and depending on availability. So it's a managed Uber model, you can call it. Right? So it's not completely off the stack. There is a large workforce, but there's a lot of quality control put into the system so that people can pick and choose, and then people work anywhere between 2 hours a day to a full day job, depending on who they are and what they want. So we run
Awesome.
pretty cool ops there. For
Yeah.
very cool companies.
That's really cool just to see, because maybe you have some data. India still has one of the lowest rates of women employment, I believe, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. So
Yeah.
what you're doing to impact that is very commendable. Really. Do you have any updated numbers? Anything showing a
Actually,
better trend? Yeah.
yeah. So two things that are very stark here. So just to add to this, so the job site ran till about 2017, and by 2017, Geo WhatsApp was happening, and we did this big shift. We killed the job board, and I got lots of angry mails from people to say, "Why did you shut it down? We were hiring from it and stuff." But as part of SHEROES, we've always had a helpline. Okay, and that
Hmm.
helpline has been our source to talk to our community, but it's also a source to help our community. Women can come to our helpline and talk about anything they want, find any piece of advice, look for resources. They can ask us anything, and we're very patient with that. And the kind of women coming on that helpline changed. Okay, so earlier it used to be jobs, it used to be how to get back on my business. It became a lot about relationships. I live in a small town, I live in a joint family. Uh, abusive situations, the conversation texture completely changed. And that gave us a signal that, dude, India's changing, internet's changing all over again. Like, and the other thing is, when we were a job platform, most of the jobs were still in metros. The remote hadn't sort of manifested in the way we would like it to. Majority of jobs were still Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Pune, Chennai, Hyderabad. But a lot of women who were coming to us were not from these cities. They were in Jabalpur and Indore and Ambala and Berhampur and wherever they were. So that was another sign. So we went back to the drawing board again and relaunched in Jan 18 and built what we are today, which is the social network for women. And the idea was to deepen it even more, to make, and also I think, again, internet had evolved, women had evolved, number of users had grown, and that clearly was sort of, the trend line. And we took away the whole jobs piece because we figured our impact is very, very small. We can impact a large number of people with other things that we can build. So lot of transition, lot of change, a lot of heartburn, along the way, because you're up and running business, and then you say like, dude, I'm going to kill this, and like. So lot of sort of pain there, but I think it's good for everyone because two things can transpire, and that's our hope. One, the number of women who will become financially independent, thanks to the internet, can be huge. So if all goes well, in about 3-4 years, we will see anywhere between 10 to 20 million women become micro entrepreneurs on the internet. So right from the online sellers to influencers to women who make their own products to women who work from home to women who are gig workers to women who are professionals. It's, and I think that will kickstart employment and entrepreneurship like nothing else. And we're seeing those trends. Like when we were a job site, the growth was always medium paced because we were dependent on the market growth. And jobs in India haven't grown. Unfortunately, our economy saw a big growth of jobs when IT services happened and then Infosys happened. But that hasn't been repeated, right? In now 20 years, we need a new engine of job growth. And the new engine of job growth is actually entrepreneurship, micro entrepreneurship, gig workforce. And I think COVID has accelerated that trend. So our bet now is women in small town India, women who are, adequately equipped to use a phone, women who are adequately educated. And India produces the maximum number of women graduates in the world. We have a large number of women who are educated and raring to go, and at least educated enough to sort of do something online, right? And more women want to sort of do this. A smartphone is really a freedom tool, for lots and lots of them. And that's what is driving now, I think, financial independence, income opportunities, and other things for women. And that's really a big bet that, we're taking now.
Got it. Great. So maybe a couple of questions from the audience that tweeted out asking for any questions. One of them were 3 initiatives at SHEROES that succeeded beyond your initial expectations.
So actually, the most successful and my personal project at SHEROES is a helpline. So it started as a simple phone number on a website, which I used to take, and then somebody else used to take, and used to all take turns to keep the phone with us. And then it was a chat helpline for a while, and now it's embedded in the SHEROES app. We have a playbook. Over 2 million women have found counseling via that helpline, and it has tremendous reach. Like we don't SEO it, we don't talk about it. I tweet about it once a week, and that's it. Like there's no other way to discover that helpline unless somebody tells you, right? So it's not a feature we talk about, but that helpline is just amazing. It's become this tool for support and discovery, and women from the smallest villages are finding it. And we're really surprised at like how the hell is this happening? But clearly there is a network that is in place. So the helpline is a great thing. I'm very proud of our remote work initiative. I think it's going to be one of the largest employers of women in the country. We're at about 10,000 women who are part of that workforce today. And we expect to see it grow 10x within this year itself because, again, COVID has accelerated what we're doing with it. And then, of course, I think the other thing that's really, really popular and successful on SHEROES platform is what we call user-generated community. These are called invite-only communities. So as a user, I can set up my own community on SHEROES. So already 7,000 women run their communities on the platform, and these are their communities. So think it's something between, something bigger than WhatsApp group and a mini app. So invite-only community kind of represents that. The woman's admin, she decides who comes in, and these communities represent different interests: spirituality, shopping, selling, learning, book reading, cooking, you name it, and it's there. Online safety, coding. So invite-only communities are definitely very, very successful. These three things, and also I love them.
Right, awesome. And a couple of things that probably didn't work out
Oh,
as you
lots of,
expect.
yeah, 100 or
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
So a couple of things. I think one of course the whole jobs experiment, right? Like if jobs in the market are not growing, and that's also a lesson for all founders that you can't beat the market, right? So jobs are not growing. If you are growing, there's 20,000 companies are not going to cover it. So we said, look, this is not the pace we want, and that was like big sort of piece to sort of work on. And then of course, for example, we've tried to do things like this whole growth hacking playbook is all over user referrals and things like that. Every time we try to do one of these popular things, popular product manager playbook things, we fall flat on our face. So those things don't work on our users. Or incentivizing our users by paying them something. Like we figured this is a bad strategy. Our users really want more than that. They want a different relationship. So those things have not worked at all. For us. And then of course I think on the product side or even on the business side, like when we started remote work, we were doing everything. We were doing all whatever somebody said, we would just take that on, and clearly not a good strategy for us. So now we've made it really, really specific, very KPI driven. So more knows than yeses. Yeah.
Got it. That's super helpful. Maybe related thing is for people trying to build communities, product-led communities. Any advice for them? What some things that have worked in hindsight, or and things like what you mentioned that might not have worked also.
Absolutely. So I think, look, communities are really a trust network. So there are two kind of networks. So there are viral networks like TikTok, and like there's a whole range of them. And then there are trust networks, like LinkedIn is a trust network. And communities are trust networks too. And I think anybody who's building a community needs to find a way to embed trust at the core of it. Because if there's trust, then people will keep coming back. And communities are really a retention play more than an acquisition play, because that's really your metric here. And the other thing that has been part of our learning is to bring offline behaviors online. People behave in a certain way. Like one of our learnings or our playbook is women have existed in offline communities forever. Like in fact, this is a very India first product phenomena, if you will, because we are the country that produced Seva and microfinance and a whole lot of these communities that have bandied together. Women hang out in these groups. They bring their life there. They make money there. They also get a lot of life advice. They have fun there. So our playbook is really taking that behavior online. So bringing small features, small tweaks to the product that replicate that behavior online. Uh, and and I think the other thing about communities is you can't buy off communities. You can buy a lot of growth. You can buy transacting users. You can buy a lot of things. And I think that's the hardest thing about communities. You just can't go away into building them. And that's why perhaps they're hard.
Got it. And the offline events and other thing. Any tips on things that have worked, tactical or strategic? Yeah.
We've always done a lot of offline, and the main reason we do offline is trust. Trust. Hey, SHEROES is a women's brand. Oh, I went to a SHEROES event. You should join this platform. Uh, I had a stall at SHEROES. I met so and so. I have a selfie with Sairee. So it's a thing. It's a thing where people say, hey, this is not just a nameless, faceless. So if you look at Twitter and Facebook, right? Like it's almost impossible to meet somebody from Twitter and Facebook, right? Unless you know Jack or like somebody there. So we had to break that to say, hey, no, we're just like the offline communities. We have events, we have meetups, we have partnerships, and that's also part of our growth playbook because a lot of Sheroes is about bringing women in communities that have existed in the offline space online. So for us, building trust via offline interaction is very, very core. In fact, before the lockdown, through the network, we would in a month there would be at least 5 to 6 meetups. Like every weekend, we would have 2 to 3 events going on. We would always have something on the calendar in any part of the country. Some run by us, some run by partners, some run by members. But it's like it's like a you know. Uh, we all have seen club memberships, Rotary Club and Gymkhana clubs. A lot of that behavior happens. Basically, people like to interact, even if
Got
it's
it.
not part of a group, but it helps build trust. People who met offline will go post online pictures. They will tag people to say, I met this person. Oh, this person sells books. This person sells something else. This person sings very well. And that's what creates, it's basically fuel for the community.
Got it. That's helpful. One more question from a founder. This is a relevant one. So, your perspective on what are some of the things that investors in India should do to improve the odds for more female founders out of India to get funded?
All right. This is the Indian matchmaking question.
Uh,
So,
yeah.
look, I think I have to say it's really, really hard for women founders to raise money. And while there are more of us now, we are still less than 5% in the entire ecosystem. I think here's what I feel founders should do. I think one, investors need to be more open. So and I think I hope investors become more open, and by that I really mean that they see women founders as who they are and not as fitting into the frame they already have in mind. Like I really face this that Heroes is not like a lot of people would say, is this built in the US? Is this in China? We are building this in India. Just see it for what it is and not for what you think it is. So lot more openness, and that would mean just meeting more founders however they look like, small, big, boutique, non-boutique, or small town, big town, whatever that might be. But I just feel we need to create more spaces for interaction and hear more stories, small town stories, because um, a big company doesn't come out of nowhere. It has to be built. Ideas have to be nurtured. Ecosystems have to be nurtured. I mean, look at us. We are here because I think this whole story started maybe 20 years ago. So and we got to do the same thing. We need more nurturing spaces, and I do think a little more audacious experiments around uh, investment modeling for female farmers. So, like, I do feel we need change in the kind of investment instruments we use. So, maybe not a Series A level instruments, maybe micro funds, maybe angel level funds. Maybe increasing the base of the funnel really, really matters because there are lot more women building, startups now, but not all of them will become the next unicorn. So we clearly need to, apply principles of marketing, increase base of the funnel. And for that, even if mortality rate is high, so be it, because then at least we will wean away a chunk of, good high scale quality startups from that funnel. So I do feel we need to uh, seed more female founders through various things and through more financial instruments modeling.
Than the traditional ones, right? So,
Yes,
got it. So,
absolutely.
two ideas there. One is meet more founders for the investors, women founders,
Absolutely.
and be
Meet
more open minded, right?
Yeah,
And the second is think of innovative instruments that could be
yeah,
different from what it is currently. Both good things to worth figuring out details. Yeah.
absolutely. Like, I mean, just hypothetically, if I run a $50 million fund, how about saying, this is 500K for you know female founders, and we will seed maybe 50 founders here. It's fine,
Mm,
something will come out
mm,
of that, right? So it's
got it.
just a small way to to encourage more risk taking. I mean, why are we in the startup ecosystem? We are here to encourage more risk taking.
Yeah. Awesome. That's good. That's great practical thoughts for all the investors, including myself, to think about. Um, and so, last question: if you were to look back and give yourself advice as a women founder, sticking with that same theme, what would your advice be to a younger Sairee or to someone else listening today, starting out on this journey?
Absolutely. Look, I think I always say this, I would definitely be more aggressive. I'd be nice. You know, we all have this good girl baggage we carry because our parents told us you have to be nice and like, so we carry this on our backs all the time, which is fine. But I definitely think I would take more risks, and I would definitely be more audacious, and I will definitely be a little more aggressive. And at the same time, I think, uh, look, uh, when I came into the ecosystem, failures were like, you couldn't talk about failures. Failures was a write-off, right? But I do think that unless our mortality rate of startups goes up, then we're not going to sort of get there, right? We have to learn in the process. It's like practice for all of us, and same for somebody like me. I would just take more risks, and even if some of those ideas were bad duds, but here I was far more careful and far more curated, making sure I will bootstrap my startup. I will not raise seed money until I have something in place, right? And there, you have men founders raising money and napkins and like seed ideas. So I think I would do more of that for sure, and ask for help. A lot of people have helped me. A lot of people who didn't know me, people have cold called, and I think that still stands. And I would still do more of the same.
Be aggressive, be audacious. Don't be hesitant about asking for help. Right,
That's
all great advice. Any last or words of encouragement for all the audience listening, and
yeah.
also the female audience? Like you touched upon a lot of things. Yeah,
So look, I think we're in very, very interesting times. India is
yeah,
one of those unique countries where lot of we are sitting on a mountain of possibility. Like, and I think the other thing is that the private sector and entrepreneurs uh, have far more imagination and far more skillful means than anybody else in this country. So we have the power to solve a lot of big problems here. Like one of the things we're doing is we're working with Step One. SHEROES is working with Step One to offer volunteers for telemedicine, and they all came from our community. So I just feel we all need to sort of take a shot at big difficult problems in front of us: education, entrepreneurship, healthcare, whatever is your thing, right? So go for it, because we are in a very ripe age. We're in a ripe age. There are a lot more resources, a lot more information. Everybody's looking at us. Everybody wants to invest in India, and you can run experiments so much easily, right? So everyone should do more fun startup projects.
awesome. So you've grown from starting in 2011, 12 to 2 lakh women to now 20 million, and I think you're still getting started. You have a
This
long way.
actually never
Yeah,
felt as beginner as we do today,
yeah,
because it's really like it's like you have engineers have blueprints on those white sheets. My
yeah,
dad had. That's how I feel today, because
yeah,
this is just like a very flaky representation of when the thing will come out of the cast. So
yeah.
we want to get to 100 million, and I was talking to somebody, and they said, "Why are you not taking 500 million and a billion women?" And I was like, "See, this is what I was talking about. I need to think big."
Awesome. So I wish you a lot more success in the years ahead. I've already seen great success, but I think there are amazing things to come. So on that note, wish you the best of luck, Sairee. Really appreciate you joining and sharing your journey with us. Yeah,
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone.
awesome. Yeah. Hope you enjoyed that chat with Sairee. She talked us through her journey from being a Russian language fan to being a consultant to starting Fleximoms and then pivoting that to SHEROES and building it as one of the most powerful communities of women in India. There were a lot of great takeaways there, including how to build products around communities. Hope you apply that to your own journeys. And hope you like this podcast. If you have some feedback for us, tweet us at Accel_India. And for more podcasts from the series, you can head to insidespodcast.in. Thank you.